Alright, ass bags. You guys have been asking for a video recap, and admittedly I've been slacking a little bit on my commissioner duties, so here we are, better late than never, catching up after a week 3 weekend. So, heading into week 4, I'm still getting a little bit used to the Yahoo website. I can see why Max all those years was bitching constantly about having to have fantasy leagues on ESPN and on Yahoo. Certainly now, this being my first year with leagues on both of those services, it is kind of a colossal pain in the ass. So I'm still getting used to the Yahoo website, but it's definitely pretty decent here. So we're going to kind of try to recap a bit, catch up through 3 weeks pretty quickly here. Yahoo actually does a pretty fantastic job of breaking down each matchup, and they did a fantastic job giving scorecards for the draft and actually offering all kinds of automated opinions through math formulas and friggin'. Anyways, it's pretty interesting. If you guys haven't actually gotten on the website to read it, it's not anything you'll get through the app, but it actually breaks down each week's matchup and it gives all kinds of pointers and tips and throws out stats and shit that it puts together, like, oh, would have beat 5 other players this week or something like that. So that part's actually pretty fascinating. But so jumping right into it, we're going to get into this last week's matchups, starting first with myself against Max. That was a pretty embarrassing defeat for me, and unfortunate for me. I was with Max all weekend. We went up to St. Louis to watch the Cowboys win against the Rams, but I got to hear about that all weekend. So what was looking like it might be a tight matchup going into Sunday afternoon quickly became desperation Sunday night and turned into reality Monday morning. Largely in part due to Max, getting some pretty sweet points out of Nick Folk, douchebag Nick Folk, and me getting -3 points out of the Carolina defense. Thanks a lot. So, moving on to the next matchup, we had Art playing against Kit, and Art narrowly eked out a victory. Very, very close matchup there. I'm going to blame that loss, Kit's loss, on the fact that he started Arian Foster, even though Arian Foster was benched before the game. So that just comes down to some negligence of checking your lineup right before the game starts. So suck on that, Kit. He is winless this season, despite all the smack talking. So we will not see him in the playoffs this year. I'm pretty sure of it. I will make a bet on that. So Art had some pretty good plays out of some of his players. Got a lot out of Reggie Bush, got a lot out of Russell Wilson, and Kit just couldn't ride Peyton Manning to victory on this one, unfortunately. Sorry, Kit, but that's how the cookie crumbles. So next one down, we had Garrison playing against John's awesome team. John previously was undefeated, and so was Garrison, so this was an interesting one. But Garrison had some pretty ridiculously performance players this week. So he had Andrew Luck go for 76. He had Antonio Brown go for 58. He had Emmanuel Sanders go off. Garrison's team is, contrary to previous years that I've played with him, he is putting together what's shaping up to be a pretty damn good team this year. So I would not be surprised to see him in the playoffs, almost certainly. John, on the other hand, had some low performances out of some of his good players, and so he falls to 2-1. Garrison moves up to 3-0. So moving on to the next one, we had William's swag team against the Harry Garrison's Bill. Bill, obviously having some issues with the scoring this season, putting together, a starting roster that's going to get him a win, but I'm sure he'll eke one out one of these weeks. But he loses to Will. William puts up a respectable 276 points, got some really good points out of Marshawn Lynch, Victor Cruz, a couple of other players that hadn't really gotten him a whole lot up until this point. Bill, on the other hand, other than Kaepernick and Michael Floyd, I guess Alshon Jeffrey too, he actually did pretty decent. I mean, he definitely would have beat me, so he got pretty close, but William just had a better week. So Bill also falls to 0-3, William moves to 1-2. Next up, because Reeve wanted me to talk about it. Congratulations, Reeve. You have a pretty damn good team, too, so you can still suck it. And I hope you miss the playoffs this year, and I hope it's because of me again this year. So, moving on to that one, Reeve beats Dennis. What looked like it might have been Dennis's victory for a while at some point on Sunday. Reeve managed to get a ton of points out of Nick Foles, a shit ton of points out of Julio Jones, and very good average points out of the rest of his players, other than the Buffalo defense. Bill, I'm not sure what you're... Reeve, I'm not sure you were thinking there, but anyways, Dennis had some good plays from some of his players, but just couldn't pull it through, lost by about 60 points, so sorry, Dennis. Dennis moves to 1-2, Reeve moves to 3-0. And lastly, we have pros only James playing against Sioux Girls One Cup, which is pretty entertaining. Team name I hadn't seen before, but anyway, so James takes a pretty awful loss as well, almost slightly less embarrassing than mine, although the spread was bigger. So Paul ekes out a victory there. Good performances out of Macklin, good performances out of Chicago, and some just solid all-around numbers from all of his players, while James had Antonio Gates and LaShawn McCoy put up devastating numbers for him. Arizona defense included, all summed for 15 points or less, so sorry, James. James moves to 1-2, and Paul goes to 2-1. So, as it currently stands, if I can get back to this damn Yahoo website, navigating my way around here. So, kind of where we're sitting right now, we have two unbeaten players, and we have two winless players, and then, of course, the spread in between, which is kind of where you would expect after 3 weeks of fantasy football. So, Garrison and Reeve definitely eking out as the teams to beat. Got a couple more, really good teams up at the top, and I'm hoping to maybe put together some respectable numbers at some point this season, but we'll see. Coming up into this next week's matchups, I have to play Garrison. I really think I'll be going to 1-4, but I really don't hope so. Art's going to be playing against Max. I really hope that Max smashes Art, mostly because I hate Art's logo picture, his team picture. Awful Art, terrible. I hope you manage to get another 10 losses this season so you can be a lot like last season. I think that Max actually is probably going to pull that one out. I think Garrison's going to cream me going back to the last one, so we'll see. Kit plays against Paul, and honestly, the way Kit's been managing his team, I'd be surprised if he got a single win this season, so I'm going to take Paul on that one. William's swag team against John's awesome team. If William can manage to take his bye players out, I'm sure he might have a fighting chance. But that's a big if, so we'll see on that one. That one's going to be a wild card. I'm just going to take John by default. Reeve plays against the Harry Garrisons. I'm not really sure that one's worth talking about, but who knows? Bill might bring it all together. He might manage to eke out a victory and beat the unbeaten team. He could be, the Dallas Cowboys of the 2010 season, I think, beating the Saints. So, anyways, we'll see on that one. I'm still going to take Reeve. And then Dennis playing against James. I think here I'm going to take Dennis. I think he's been putting together some pretty respectable numbers. His points for are pretty dang good. He's just been getting the shaft on a lot of these matchups. So I'm going to take Dennis on that one. So that being said, I think this has kind of run on long enough. I know you guys get after me about, no, too long, this, and that. But anyways, that's our Week 3 recap going into Week 4. So, I wish you guys all the best, and I hope Garrison loses, and I hope Reeve loses, and I hope all of you lose. As that goes without saying. I always hope all of you guys lose. I really wish I could be the only winner here, but unfortunately, that's just not how brackets work. So, best of luck to you all in Week 4, and I will see you guys all next week.